Привет, everyone. Welcome to Achilla's podcast, where we talk about different cities and cultures from all over the world. My name is Hussein, and I'm not alone here. My brother Hassan is here as well. Hi, friends. This episode is about the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, or as Ukrainians say, Kyiv. Kiev is the most populous city of Ukraine. It is the cradle of Slavic civilization and is one of the greenest cities in Europe. It's famous for its cozy parks. The Mariinsky Park is the most famous. Please enjoy. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
Could you please talk about yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Leva, and I was born and grew up in Kiev. And after that, I've lived around the world in a few countries, like in the States, then in Poland. Then I lived in Asia for 4 years, and now I'm back to Kiev. It's been 2 years since I'm back. So I came 1 year before the lockdown started, and I'm kind of exploring it from the new perspective now because I have many countries to compare with. And it's so interesting to re-explore your own city in a new way and to see how it's changing and developing and evolving and so on and so forth.
Oh, is it very different? So we are talking about Kiev. So is it very different that from the day you left and the day when you came back?
So, yes and no. Basically, the main thing, like, let's say the outline would be the same. Yeah, the parks are still the same, the landmarks are the same. But actually, this change was one of the reasons why I decided to come back. So I was out for 2 years, and then I came back for half a year, and then I was out for a year again, and I came back. And every time when I was coming back, I saw that there are a lot of cool initiatives happening here. There are a lot of people who want to change something. There are a lot of new cool cafes. There are a lot of events, and now I wanted to be a part of this change. So this was actually the reason why I came back. And now you can see that there are many cafes. For example, I don't eat meat, so then we will talk about vegetarianism and only vegan, vegetarian friendly cafes. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I had nothing to eat.
Wow.
Now, every cafe, every supermarket, even chain supermarkets, they offer you something. And there are a lot of underground initiatives as well. There are a lot of social initiatives, a lot of NGOs. So I see how Kiev is evolving and getting a new face, if you will.
Wow. So there is a thing for everyone, even if you are vegetarian or not. So everyone can find something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're vegan, vegetarian, that's not a problem. Gluten-free might be harder. We're talking again, like now we're talking from the angle of food-wise. But still people understand the difference. So yeah, and also what I really love food scene here because I've talked to quite a few people about that. In Kyiv, you can get very good quality, very good service for quite low price comparing to any other world capitals. So we have amazing Vietnamese cuisine. I've lived in Vietnam for some time, so I'm very picky with that. We have really good Chinese cuisine. We have not bad, decent Indian food. And there are more and more and more food from different cultures. And also events that represent different cultures. So, for example, we have Peruvian Cultural Center here, and they often do different events to show, they make events,
Wow.
to show you traditions. Yeah, and Peruvian guy is running it, so he is I don't know, like native from there. He can show how it really is in his homeland.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like worth visiting.
Yeah, it is absolutely. And what I really like in Kiev, to me, it's a specific mixture between Asia and Europe. So if you go to some sleep districts, as we call them, so districts which are tightly populated, you see a lot of these signs from the shops, and it reminds me of Shanghai or Hong Kong in a way. But then if you go to city center, it has a Soviet feel because whole like main part of city center in Kiev was destroyed during the Second World War. So they rebuilt it in Soviet times, and you can still see the architecture. But also you have an old part which is more like Western European in a way. So it's a very interesting mix, and also culture-wise, you see people who are doing their own startups and so on and so forth, who travel often. But then you also see other people. And I like this contrast here.
How do you say hi in your language?
So in Ukrainian, it will be привіт.
Привіт.
You can say добрий день, if it's like hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that different from Russian, right?
Oh, it's not. It's not. Ukrainian itself is very different from Russian. I'm bilingual, so yeah. I like in my family. I usually spoke Russian in my childhood. Now I switched to Ukrainian. But then still, I was thinking that this is basically the same language. And then when I started to learn Czech language and Polish, I realized how different Ukrainian and Russian are. So Ukrainian and Polish, we use different alphabets. We use Cyrillic alphabet in Ukrainian, and Polish people use Latin alphabet. But then still, if you talk, it's easier for Polish people to understand Ukrainians than for Russians who have never heard Ukrainian before.
Yeah, I see. And if I speak Russian, can I understand Ukrainian or I cannot?
That might be a challenge for you. I will understand you for sure, because again, it's my mother tongue.
Yeah.
But for you to understand me speaking Ukrainian might be a bit of a challenge.
I see. Do people speak English?
Yes and no. So basically how it works with English here, I know a lot of people who moved here from abroad, and they don't speak much Russian or Ukrainian because they don't need to. So you can find people who speak English, you can hang out with people who speak English, you can go to places where staff speaks English, but then you will lose. You will lose on exploring more authentic culture because older generation, usually they don't speak English. I mean, it depends. It really depends. But still, I would recommend to learn maybe some Russian before coming here. People are absolutely fine if you speak Russian to them. So you might see in the media that there is a lot of aggression towards this language. No, you're good speaking Russian. Most of my friends speak Russian. So don't worry if you know Russian but don't know Ukrainian. Just you will have an opportunity to practice your Russian here, and many people actually come to learn Russian here. But again, getting back to English, all the governmental structures, no, you will not get English service there. And the document stuff, you will need local people often to help you with that. But if you just hang out in cafes, go to clubs, meeting new people, that shouldn't be a problem. Like, for example, if you come for a few weeks or so, you shouldn't be worried that you don't know much Ukrainian or Russian.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Cool. Yeah. Good for us because we speak Russian.
Yeah. It was also easy for me when I was traveling around Central Asia that I spoke it. I was so happy that I could talk to people more.
And what do you think might surprise foreigners if they visit Kyiv?
Well, the interesting thing, and what I've heard many times, often foreigners are surprised by the amount of luxury cars they see in Kiev.
Yeah.
So we are not talking about Ukraine now. We are talking about Kiev in particular. And some of my foreign friends told me that this is the first city where they saw so many luxury cars. So just to make it clear, we are not a very much well-off country, being honest, if you compare with any other country which is in European Union. I mean, we are not in European Union, and I cannot say that Ukraine is a rich country. And if you check the statistics, you can also see that income level here is quite low. And this is why visitors are really surprised to see how well off some people are. So the problem here is a huge gap between people who are well off and people who don't have much income. And you can see this gap literally.
So there is no like middle class there?
There is, but it's quite relative. I mean, I cannot say that you can spot a middle class
Hmm.
as easy as you will spot it in the States, for example.
Yeah. Okay, and could you also explain the mini sculptures around the city? Um, I've seen those when I was doing some research about Kiev. So they are made from bronze, right? So metal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there is this girl who calls herself manager of Kiev.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the one who launched that project. So she runs really interesting tours around Kiev, which are fun even for locals. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not only for tourists, and this was her thing to make them fun. And she decided to kick off this project just to make I don't know, one more interesting thing here. So you have them all around city center and they tell a story about this place or they tell a story about Kiev.
Yeah.
Being honest, me as local, I haven't seen many of them because I wasn't doing this hunt, because I
Yeah.
think tourists, when they come, they will be like hunting for them and looking.
Yeah.
I sometimes notice them outside, but I don't even know how many of them are out there. And it's a cool thing, but I cannot say that for me as local, it's interesting to go and to see all of them. There is nothing so excited about it.
I
It's
see.
just a cool small thing.
Yeah. So it's more for tourists.
It is, I think so. I think so,
Yeah.
yeah. It's more to withdraw attention because you see, you did research online and it popped up right away.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not what everyone will go to see.
I see. Yeah, and another cool thing about it, there is a QR code. You can scan it and you can read about that area, right?
Perhaps,
Mm-hmm.
being frank, I've never scanned it.
Okay.
And actually, that's a thing in Kiev. For example, comparing to Lviv,
Mm-hmm.
people here know much less of a history of the city than people from Lviv do.
Mm.
So you see, Kyiv is a melting pot because it's a capital,
Yeah.
and especially after the war started, a lot of people had to immigrate here or had to even become refugees here.
Mm-hmm.
So they might not know the history. And me, even I was born in Kiev, and my mom was born in Kiev. It's not like we are so attached to its history.
I see. And could you please also explain the thing called samasat, where people go and
Samasad.
make
Uh huh.
build the park?
It's like a yard. It's not a park, indeed. It's a yard, which is at Podil, which is one of the
Yeah.
coolest districts in Kiev, and you have a lot of cafes there, and many people want to live there, and foreigners always hang out there.
Mm-hmm.
So the initial concept, Samo, means by yourself, self, and Sad means a garden.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, the name is self-explanatory, and this is what they wanted to do to make, they wanted to create a place where they can also do some urban gardening, some urban farming, where you can spend time nicely and so on and so forth. I was really excited with the concept when I heard about it for the first time. I was just running there. But being honest, there is nothing happening. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you come there, you just see a yard, but I cannot say that it's something amazing to see or that it's must. You can hang out there for a bit, but after all, it's a regular yard and there is not that much happening.
Yeah. What I like about this, it's how people are conscious about this, and it's their own idea to go there and to make that place better than it used to be before.
Yes, yes, we see this in Kiev a lot. And again, coming back to the thing which I told before, the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I like Kiev for. You see a lot of initiatives here. There is also initiative Kyiv Me, which is a wordplay, but it's hard to explain. And basically, what these guys do, they collect money and then they wash Kiev. Like literally, they wash walls with the graffitis which are not supposed to be there. They were cleaning the snow in the winter because city council wasn't doing that. So they just collected money from locals and they were like, listen, we want our city to be beautiful. So we're just getting there and taking shovels in our hands and just doing it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's really cool. You said that there's a big gap between rich people and poor people, and I even heard about market for rich people. It's called Bessarabka, right?
Yeah, Perapeca is a market which is right at the city center. It's not close. It's not far from Maidan, which is the main square of Independence. It is interesting architecture-wise. Because it's an old Soviet structure, which is interesting to take a look at. It's quite unusual for many foreigners. I would never buy any products there, but now they also have a lot of street food there. Around it and inside. Inside there are a lot of vegan spots. So I go there quite often just to grab a bite. And this was very interesting and very unusual, like 5 years ago, when inside the market, they started to do kind of food hall. And I was like, oh, really? Food hall inside market? Come on. And there is a different market, which is called Zhitny, which is at Podil. And there they throw parties.
Wow.
Like they have raves at the market. Yeah, that was cool when it all started. And sometimes exhibitions, and it's still functioning market, which also has quite interesting architecture, but they're now promoting it as an alternative space as well.
Okay. If you could choose 3 aspects of your culture to put in a time box for the future, so what would you put in it?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one.
You can add maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, if you have more.
Okay, so definitely that would be something related to modern Ukrainian music, which is built on traditional one, like Daha Bracha and all that, guys.
Sounds good.
I love them and I'm really proud of them. So they would go to this capsule. Then food-wise, I cannot say that I'm a big fan of Ukrainian food, being very honest with you. I would say nature, because we have mountains here, we have sea here, and this is what I like. And then the third thing, I would say language. I really love Ukrainian language. And, you know, when you watch cartoons with Ukrainian voiceover, they're much better. And all comedies, when you watch them with Ukrainian voiceover, they're like triple more hilarious.
Wow.
So, yeah, I would say language.
Good. And what culture besides your own do you admire, and why?
I would say all of them. There is no culture which I don't admire because it's just interesting. It's interesting how it was built. It's interesting how it evolves. And the most interesting thing for me is to find parallels. For example, when I lived in India, we were preparing for some local celebration, very local. And what you do during it, you burn a fire on the rooftop. This is what Indians sometimes do. Nothing special here. I mean, it was quite bizarre for me at the beginning, but then I got used to it. So you have like a barbecue kind of thing. And then other people, they go from house to house. They sing songs. And you also eat a sweet mixture of nuts and honey. So yeah, and this is Indian celebration, and I was preparing for it, and then my younger brother calls me and starts to sing Shedrivke, which is very traditional Ukrainian thing. So the tradition is that they are like carols, but for spring, and the tradition is that people go from house to house, also sing, and they get sweets for that. So they kind of greet. No, Halloween is different. It's very different. It's a spring celebration.
Okay.
It's to welcome spring, It's to welcome spring and wish a lot of good harvest and so on and so forth. So, and then my brother called me the very same day. And I was like, oh, are we celebrating basically the same celebration as in India now? And he was like, yeah, it is today. So when you see all those parallels, how we are all related and interconnected, and even with the language, there are many things which in Hindi sound similar to Russian or Ukrainian. So these things I love seeing. And even in childhood, like all people did the same silly things. And it's so cool to see how related we are, but then how different and how unusual some things are in different cultures, in various cultures.
Yeah, there's so much to learn.
Absolutely. And once you start to discover, you understand how much more you have to discover. It's just endless process.
Yeah, the more you see, the more you want to see, right? The more you want to discover.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, back to Kiev. What is your favorite place to visit with your family, your friends, or on your own?
So I live right next to Botanic Garden, but not one which is at Universitet, but one which is at Družba Narodov. Why I'm telling that the funny thing is that this one is much bigger than the first one I mentioned. But then most of people, when you say Botanic Garden, they think about one at Universitet. So we have a few Botanic Gardens in Kiev. And I really love this one because you have not only vegetation from different countries, but you also have small representatives of architecture from different countries in it. And you also have small like landscape design, which is made in Japanese style, or which is made in Tibetan style, or which is made in Korean style. So this is a very serene place to be, and I love walking there. Then I also love Holosivsky Park, which is park slash forest. I just enjoy walking there again because it's endless. It's so huge. And I grew up next to it. So for me, it's a place of childhood, you know. And then I like places next to Dnipro. So Trukhanov Island is nice to walk around. Yeah, then it will be hard to think about
Rodina
something else.
Rodina Mать? No?
Oh, well, I live next to it.
Would you recommend?
Sometimes it is interesting to see. It is interesting if you're not from this culture. And for me, you know, it's so huge and it kind of shows you the size of Soviet influence. I would love to climb it because you can get on the top of the sword, which is interesting. But then otherwise, it looks so bizarre, the lady herself.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's not something I would be proud of.
So for those who don't know, it's a lady statue, right? With a sword.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like our Statue of Liberty. Our Statue of Liberty. Kind of.
I see. And
I think it's actually higher than the Statue of Liberty.
yeah, huge. Huh? Seems higher. Yeah. And how much does it cost to climb there? I heard that it was about 200 hryvnia. It's a Ukrainian.
Oh yeah,
money.
I've never been on the top. Yeah, it's a Ukrainian currency, hryvnia, and
Hryvnia,
currently 33 hryvnias, €1, and 27, 28 hryvnias, $1.
I see.
I've never been on the top, and from what I heard, you have to bribe the guard to go to the top.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can do that officially. Oh, and I reminded about one more place which I love, and which is more like insider information, let's put it this way. It's Rusanivka. So Rusanivka is artificially built island inside the city itself. And you can walk next to river shore, and it's very interesting. Yeah, Rusanivka, I love it. It has its own special vibe. So this one I would recommend visiting if you want to feel real vibe of Kiev.
Yeah, there is a park, right?
In Rusanivka, maybe. I usually walk next to Dnieper River.
Yeah. Okay. And since you already explained the places to go, could you give some advice on what to try? I mean, what to eat? To eat.
Okay, so food-wise, if you want to get something traditional, yummy, and not touristy, go to Garbuzik. Garbuzik means pumpkin in Ukrainian. Yeah, we have a lot of in our language. So it is amazing. I go there just with my friends. I go there as a local, and this is non-touristy place with delicious Ukrainian food, and they have food from all over Ukraine. So basically, Ukraine is quite a diverse country, and different regions, they have their own specialities. They have not their own language, but their own accent. And if you go to Carpathians, even you speak Ukrainian fluently, you will not understand them. That's a different language, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Garbuzik I will recommend for sure. I will send you a link so you can put it in show notes.
Okay.
And then there is a very interesting place called Soroka Market, which means 100 years ago ahead.
Wow.
Why it's called in this unusual way? Because they take very traditional Slavic food, like the one which was hundreds and hundreds years ago, and they add a modern twist to it.
Wow.
And I really love that place. For example, when I was there, I tried bees. I was eating bees, but those bees were not the ones which they killed to be eaten. Those bees didn't survive the winter. So they prepared them in a special way and you could eat them. And apparently this is a traditional thing for Ukraine. So you can discover very authentic things which usually people don't know because it was like hundreds of years ago.
Wow. Do you eat the whole bee or just some parts like head maybe?
Yeah. You eat it whole and they have different things you wrap it in. And it also has honey sauce, obviously. It is interesting. Because, usually when we talk about bugs, like bugs eating, you think of Asia.
Yeah, China especially.
But no, it's also in Latin America. Yeah, in Latin America they eat grasshoppers and here we eat bees. So it is interesting. Oh, and talking about food, also Kyiv is now a very good place to touch traditional Crimean Tatar culture. Because unfortunately, a lot of Crimean Tatars became refugees. After Crimea was taken by Russia.
Yeah.
So they opened their restaurants here and you can try their original food. So you can go to Sofra or you can go to Musafir. And food is very interesting. And it is unique because, this ethnicity is not that large. So it's a really unique experience, I would say.
Wow. Cool.
And we have really amazing. Sorry, I love food, so like I can talk 2 hours only about cafes in Kiev. We have really amazing vegan zero waste bakery, not bakery, but like coffee shop. And when I learned about it for the first time, I was like, vegan zero waste in Kiev, guys. It might be hard to make it to the market and to sustain yourself, but no. They're doing well, and I love the owner, like her attitude to her business, because it's about sustainable social business. And she really stands on the values it's built on, and people support it. And that's amazing. That's amazing to see such kind of initiatives being built in Kiev and growing in Kiev.
Wow. Sounds good. And one more thing, Perapeca.
Perapeca is more kind of traditional thing. So it's called Kyivska Perapeca. And it's right next to Tsum, which is Central Universal Market. This is a very Soviet name. You will see it in every Soviet capital. Yeah, I think you also have it there.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not surprised. Like Vedenha, also Soviet countries have Vedenha, which is an interesting place to see, by the way, in Kiev. So yeah, and it's next to Musafir, which I just mentioned before, which is Crimean Tatar food. Well, it's a sausage in a fried dough. I mean, I tried it. I cannot say it's like the best food of my life. And you always have such a big queue there. It's just endless. Rain or shine, people just standing for their sausage in a fried dough. I cannot get it, being honest. And recently, just a few weeks ago, there was a new project launched about small pies. So they tried to add new identity to Kiev, and instead of Perapeca, they tried to replace it with the pie. And they developed a special pie which should show, like, it should be a new, I don't know, trademark of Kiev, let's put it this way, or new signature dish or signature fast food rather. I haven't tried it yet. So yeah, that's interesting that they want to replace now Perapeca with something else.
With sausage?
No. So just different pies which are small. So not a big pie, not a large one, but the one which would be like, I don't know, 7 centimeters diameter. Yeah.
So it's good enough for
So they
one
try
person.
to make it a new trademark. Yes, just to have a bite.
Okay.
Because recently, like buns with different filling of yeah, with different stuff inside became quite popular. So you can see Titka Clara chain all over Kiev, and I love what they offer.
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of food has taken off, and this is like our traditional fast food. Let's put it this way.
Cool.
And this is why they try to add a new identity to street food in Kiev and make a new main thing, make a new signature dish of Kiev.
Yeah. And I think there is one more thing we have to mention is Ukrainian borscht,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's something that people, I mean, foreigners, they have to try, right?
absolutely. Go to Garbuzik and
Hmm.
try it.
Yeah. And for some of our listeners who have never heard of borscht, could you please explain what is that?
It's a beetroot soup.
Uh-huh. With cabbage also,
It
right?
has beetroot, it has cabbage, it has, yeah, beetroot, cabbage, tomatoes, onions, potatoes, carrot, obviously. I mean, obviously, because we add carrot in all soups, as we do with potatoes
Yeah.
and onions. Yeah, and then you can have different modifications. You can make it based on meat broth, or you can make it vegetarian with mushrooms and beans. And again, some people add like apple to it sometimes to give some sourness. Some people would add dry plum to it, also for some flavor.
Kefir.
So it depends on the recipe. Kefir? Why would you add kefir to borscht?
We
Yeah.
add here in
No, you
Tajikistan.
don't
Again,
do this
it's
to
different.
borscht.
Yeah, it's Tajik version.
So with borscht, it's very interesting because basically borscht you can find in all Slavic cultures. And when I lived in Poland, I always had fights with Polish people to what you can call borscht because it's very different there and here. Here you have a lot of vegetables in it,
Yeah.
like it's like mostly veggies there. Some people add meat and then they say that original borscht is only with meat. No. We have fasting here, and it can be also with beans and mushrooms. I love that one. So yeah, the thing of Ukrainian borscht is that it has a
Yeah.
lot of stuff inside. Yeah, be ready not only to drink but to eat as well. And everyone has their own recipe of making it. Like, you know, it's always with those signature dishes of countries that, oh no, every person claims that their recipe is the best, their family recipe is the best. I don't know. I like all of them. Oh, and you should eat it with sour cream. And
Yeah,
then you
and
can take Ukrainian bread. This is a unique thing. So Ukrainian bread is roundish and it's a rye bread, which you cannot find in any other country because it's Ukrainian bread. It's called this way, Ukraiński chleb. And it's a particular type of bread which I like. And what we were doing in childhood, me and my brother, when we were eating borscht, we would take this Ukrainian bread, we would take a piece of garlic, and we would add this garlic to bread,
Yeah.
like to the pill, or I don't know even how to call it. And we enjoy it this way. But then usually borscht will be served with pampushki, which are also small white bread buns. And garlic also added there. But I like it with Ukrainian bread. If you eat meat, then you can add salo to it, which is basically a pig's fat. Yeah, which is a bizarre thing, but many people like it.
so what is the best time to visit Kiev?
I would say spring and autumn because recently summers have become hotter and hotter, and sometimes it comes up to 40 something degrees.
Wow.
So, yeah, you don't want to experience that. But in spring, you know, like everywhere in this climate zone, everything is blooming and so on and so forth. And autumn here, I love because you see, Kiev is a hilly city. Yeah, we have a lot of hills, so it's not plain. And you can see trees changing colors and you can see all these landscapes. There are many viewpoints. So you can enjoy seeing those trees. There are different variations. And yeah, I would say autumn, October, because those colors are just unforgettable.
Wow. And how people can find you?
Me? Oh,
Yeah. Your address,
well,
please.
currently I live in Kiev, but I will not leave my address.
Okay.
But in case, but in case they want to find me online, I'm on
Yeah,
Facebook. I
sure.
don't have Instagram, and that's my principle not to have it. Though mainly people here use Instagram. They use Instagram, Telegram, and Viber. Telegram is something you perhaps will have to install if you go to Kiev, because no one uses WhatsApp here.
Oh.
I mean, mostly people don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
We use a local thing which is called Telegram. And on Facebook I'm Leva, and we will add link to show notes.
Yeah.
So if you want to ask me more, just give me a shout. And I'm also on Couchsurfing. By the way, Couchsurfing is used here, and we have also Couchsurfing events. We have Couchsurfing hangouts. So in case you are in this kind of crowd and community, it will be easy to blend in.
Oh, cool. So, is there anything else left you would like to share before we wrap up?
So until recently, Kyiv was one of the greenest capitals in Europe. And what I really like here is that right in the middle of a city center, you can walk in a forest. And this is very cool thing about the city. So you will enjoy nature here without long trips and so on and so forth. And we have many parks, and this is enjoyable. And another interesting thing is that currently all the old factories, abandoned factories, not all of them, but many of them become new cultural centers. So they become workshops, they become rave places, and the techno scene is also evolving here. So it is interesting to see this process. Some people call Kiev New Berlin. Well, I would object that because Kiev is Kiev, okay? It has its huge history. And just calling it the New Berlin is taking all this history and authenticity off. But it is very interesting to see this change here, because it has already happened in many European Union countries, in many European Union cities, and here it's just happening. So I would recommend to check it out in the next few years before it became as any other city.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, the last question. How to say bye in your language?
Buvai.
Buvai? Buvai?
Yeah, you can say buvai, or you can say... No, you can say only buvai. I wanted to say that you can say paka, but paka is Russian.
Yeah.
In Ukrainian, you would say buvai.
Buvai. So you can say that to your friends?
Or you can say do zустрічі.
Do zустрічі.
You can say do zустрічі, which means see you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
To my friends... to my friends, I would say bye sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, Marie, thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah, we really appreciate it. From your words, it sounds so interesting, and yeah, I would love to go there.
You should visit it.
So yeah, then it's time to say bye. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
До зустрічі.
До зустрічі. До зустрічі.
До зустрічі. Yeah, до зустрічі.
You're doing well.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you can send us an email at theachilovs@gmail.com. And you can find us on all the major podcast platforms like Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast, Castbox, and so on. Until next time, goodbye.